Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesdays with Trailblazers, brought to you by TechEdge AI, the video podcast where we bring you the latest trends and insights in AI and technology. I'm your host, Siddesh, and today we'll talk about Crowdform, which focuses on opportunities in AI, climate, blockchain, and consumer technology. And to share his journey, we have Ewan Collins, co-founder Crowdform, who has launched over 100 companies, created 2 billion in market cap, and taken 11 companies to IPO. So without further ado, let's welcome Ewan. Hey, Ewan, how are you doing?
Hey Sid, I'm good and it's good to be here.
Great. Well, I'm actually really excited to dive into your entrepreneurial journey. So could you start by sharing some insights into your experience of launching over 100 companies since 2014? What have been some key lessons learned along the way?
Sure. So to give you some background on me, so I've been building companies for about 10 years. I
Mm-hmm.
started pretty early. I guess I founded my first company when I was 21. So it's the almost cliched story of founding a company out of the college dorm room. So yeah, been basically building companies my entire career. That company that I started with, spent a few years building it, and then eventually we got acquired. In
Mm-hmm.
parallel, built up a few other businesses. So we've got a portfolio of businesses focused on largely on AI, but also we have businesses in, as you mentioned, crypto and climate tech. And yeah, last 5 or so years has been focused on AI because it's even before this most recent wave of innovation driven by ChatGPT. It's been an area of interest to us and something we could see was set to explode as soon as the tech was there. So yeah, been building AI for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
AI companies that we've launched in the last 12 months. One is called Condor, which I'd love to talk to you about in a bit more depth today. We've also launched a company called
Mm-hmm.
Cycle, which is a AI co-pilot for business. There's actually a couple of other AI companies, but I won't overwhelm. And yeah, would love to talk a bit more about particularly Condor, which is which we're seeing growing at quite a rate and is kind of the one that we think is really going to take off over the next few months. So yeah, that's me.
That's great. I mean, that's really intriguing. Now, with a combined market cap of 2 billion across your ventures, what do you attribute to their success and growth in the market?
Well, number one, there's no magic formula. Building, like, every company is different. Yeah, every company is different. Every product you build, every team you build, it has its own challenge, and part of the skill is adapting to that challenge. But if I could say one thing which I've seen throughout this journey is speed. Like, the big advantage you have as a startup is speed. You can move faster than your competition if you can get it together to do that. But crucially, you can move faster than incumbents. People are scared of launching startups in a space where they think, there's this giant company, how could we ever beat them? But for all the advantages that accrue to large companies, disadvantages also accrue, whereby, for example, there's this idea of one no versus one yes. So in a large company, all it takes is one no going up the chain of who's going to decide if a project goes ahead. Whereas in the startup, all it takes is one yes to try something, to build a new feature in the product, to try a new marketing idea. So yeah, speed is really the thing you have to lean into as a founder. It's also the big thing that we see people stumble on. People can get fixated on the wrong thing, and they can slow the whole momentum of their startup down. It's not universally this, but it's often people coming from a non-startup environment, where
Mm-hmm.
they are used to a bit more structure and they're used to things being a bit more predictable, and they struggle to move into an environment where you really have to just decide what's important and move very quickly on those points. Basically, if it's reversible and if it's not critical, then don't spend a lot of time deciding on it, and that keeps the product moving forward. And internally with your team, it keeps everyone's focus on what you're trying to achieve. So yeah, one thing,
True.
speed.
You've donned multiple hats around this journey, across the companies that you worked with. So
Yeah, of course. So so you as a founder, you have to expect to wear multiple hats. You should be a generalist, but something that's also crucial building any company, and that perhaps people who are too much towards the kind of generalist camp is you need product expertise on the team. So you need to be a generalist, but you also need to have the level of craft and skill required to produce a product that people want. If you can't do that, that is the only purpose of a company, is to produce a product that people want. So you need to be willing to wear hats, but you also need to be willing to kind of dive deep. And if you either you upskill yourself, so you become a domain expert in whatever you're doing, or you bring in people who can do that or bring that expertise for you.
Makes perfect sense. Now, taking 11 companies to IPO is no small feat, right? What were some of the key challenges you faced, while preparing these companies for public offerings?
Sure. So what I'd say is that IPOs and running public companies it's not easy. You have more stakeholders, you have a higher level of scrutiny, you have admin costs that you don't have as a private company. So that's one thing that anyone who's looking at this should be prepared for. The other thing is everyone is subject to what's going on in the macro environment, but in public companies context, it's more sensitive to that. So in the UK for the last couple of years, it's been a particularly difficult macro environment. So we've managed to raise successfully and we've done these IPOs, but many other companies that we're aware of haven't been able to do that. So for example, with Condor, we IPO'd Condor in December last year, and that was in an environment where nobody else was doing it. So I think testament to the strength of the product and of what we were trying to build across the company, that it managed to get so much investor interest that it went against the grain of what was happening with everyone else in the same space. But yeah, if it's a difficult macro environment, then it's hard to take companies public, and it's hard to manage investor expectations in that world. Something else I'd say is that the US is way ahead of the EU and the UK in this regard. So per capita, 14 times more capital is raised in the US than in the UK/EU. So that's more than an order of magnitude difference there. In recent years, we've seen some of the best companies that could have been European companies that have instead gone and IPO'd in the US, and we've seen kind of a brain drain go to the US to build companies, because in terms of fundraising and IPO activity, it's just it's leagues ahead of the UK and the EU.
Makes perfect sense. IPO processes can actually be quite complex. We all know about that. Now, when it comes to determining the potential success of a new venture, what criteria do you typically use before investing time and resources into its development?
Yeah, so number one is you have to know when to say no. So you shouldn't say yes to everything, even if the opportunities are there. For us, within our group, the first question is always, can we have an impact on this specifically with the expertise that we have, or the domain expertise that we could acquire ourselves or bring in? If you set out to build a kind of deep tech biomed company, but you have none of those skills or insights yourself, then you're going to be fighting a pretty extreme uphill struggle. So that's number one. And then number two is, as a framework, if it succeeds, it will be huge. That's the question you should be asking. If we win, will this be huge? And yeah, that's it. There's more that goes into it, but those are the two that for us are our starting point.
Makes perfect sense. I guess that actually makes a lot of sense. Now, lastly, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who aim to eventually take the companies public?
Well, I would say don't set out to be trying to take a company public. At the earliest stage of a company, your obsession should be with building a great product. It sounds like a cliche, but you have to be, as a team and as a founder, you have to be completely obsessed with building a product that people are going to pay for and that adds value to their lives. Yeah, there's not really any way to position a company so it's got a higher chance of succeeding in an IPO context later on. You should just be obsessed with build a great product, build it quickly, move fast, think about customers, think about your marketing, think about your brand. Don't think about IPOing. That comes later once you've once you build a great company.
Perfect. So, Ewan, you recently launched a new company called Condor AI. Would love to know more about it.
Yeah, so Condor AI is an AI assistant. But where we're different is that where other AI assistants are designed around the keyboard, we're designed around the camera. So how it works is you take a photo or video, you ask a question, or you choose from one of our pre-made prompts, and then in a couple of seconds, Condor gives you a remarkably accurate and insightful response. So, for example, you might go to your fridge, take a photo of the contents of the fridge, and Condor will give you recipe ideas with the ingredients you have available. You might take a photo of your outfit, and Condor will give you tips for how to improve your outfit. You could use it on your kids' homework to take a photo of the question, and Condor will give you the answers. You can even use it just for fun. So we have some prompts that are just there for entertainment. And one that people love is Pet Whisperer. So you take a photo of your pet, and Condor will read the pet's mind and will imagine what the pet might be thinking. And as I say, we have a prompt library where we have hundreds of ready to go prompts that have been designed by our prompt engineers. And where we find that helps is that most people are aware that AI is capable and is useful, but they can't think of all the ways that they could use it. So one part of the prompt library is inspiring people with all the useful and interesting ways that you can use Condor. Secondly, because all the prompts have been designed by our prompt engineers and tested, you have a much higher chance of the prompt doing what you need to do and giving you the answer you need, because we've kind of tested every prompt to make sure that it works well. And
Perfect.
so what? Sorry.
I'm sorry, I was saying it's perfect. I mean, it's really interesting.
Great. I'll carry on because then it might, because probably not good to have me interrupting you. So what Condor is, it's an app that you can use every day for all kinds of life hacks, and to really bring these very powerful latest generation of computer vision models into ways that are helpful to you in your everyday life. I think most people don't realize just how capable these AI models are, and what we do is we bring that into a really easy to use app that's free to use, built around the camera, very little kind of fiddly typing or thought involved from the user. So yeah, that's Condor. Perfect.
Pretty interesting. I mean, I'm certainly looking forward to probably be a user as well in the near future. So yeah, that's really interesting. Now, a personal question, if you don't mind, Ewan. I mean, you've been working around AI as well. So just want to understand your predictions about AI in the future. How do you think that's going to impact lives?
Sure. So the first thing and what we believe in with Condor is that AI is going to become a ubiquitous part of everyday life. It's all the technology is already at the point where it can help you in a range of pretty remarkable ways. But the challenge is going from that knowledge to then actually using it day to day. So the number one thing we're trying to achieve with Condor is to put AI in the hands of everyone, make it really easy to use, and really integrate it into everyone's daily life, as it will be more and more across work, home life. Everything we do will be touched by AI over the next few years.
It was really insightful, Ewan. Thank you so much for that answer.
Great.
You and I really enjoyed hosting you on our podcast Tuesdays with Trailblazers, and thank you all for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. And do check out Crowdform, which builds digital products and launches ventures for the next evolution of the web. Until next time, stay tuned with TechEdge AI for more insights into all things AI and technology. Till we meet again, signing off, your host, Sidesh.